you can be successful by just like focusing in on what your restaurant is and what it's about, and like really like driving that home and sticking to your guns with that, and understanding your neighborhood, or your just like your local clientele, figuring out what they are and what they want. Like that's where I see the biggest failure coming in, is these people that want to open up this, like they have these grandiose ideas of opening up a restaurant and like making it, because it's like, I like to cook like this type of food, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, and they don't take into consideration where it's located, who their clientele is, what their clientele wants. And I think that's like, I think one of the big things is just kind of listen to your customer.
Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Thanks for being with us. This week, I have a chef, a co-owner and executive chef of Little Dom's in Los Angeles, the Los Feliz neighborhood, and they've also moved a new operation up the coast to Carpenteria. It's called Little Dom's Seafood. Of course, we're going to talk about the usual, the labor challenges, training philosophies, leading by example, marketing, pivots, all those things. But speaking of pivots, I'm always impressed by those who look outside the box and think about, okay, what can we do to stand apart from the competition, solve a problem, and give our customers more reasons to come back. And I've always believed in multiple profit centers, and maybe you've thought about this, and maybe it's something you can still execute in your restaurant. They've been particularly successful with market items based on the cuisine they serve. So we're talking about meatballs and meat by the pound and pasta and pizza kits, and anything that a restaurant can sell to its customers as a retail item is just another profit center. Another innovative idea that we're going to talk about, it's a Thanksgiving tradition at Little Dom's, where they have a deep-fried turkey feast out on the sidewalk, which has captured the public's imagination. So really, that's what it's about. It's about standing apart. But we're going to talk about all the other things about chef, cuisines, and early backstories, and running successful restaurants, and best advice, of course, to operators moving forward. So stay with us. I'm excited to talk to Chef Brandon Boudet.
You're tuned in to the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. Powerful ideas to rock your restaurant. Here's your host, Roger Bodwin.
Imagine both your front and back of house teams are so well trained that they're executing flawlessly. Your front of house is doubling your sales, boosting repeat business, and creating 5-star dining experiences, while your back of house is consistently preparing each dish to perfection, on time and to spec. Having a restaurant this dialed takes a unique training system. That's where Serve comes in. Serve means Study Restaurant Variety, and it is a powerful, mobile training system, custom-built to meet the needs of your restaurant. Serve will up-level your team's knowledge and skills, maximize your profits, and create experiences guests will rave about. Serve is the key to unlocking your restaurant's hidden potential, and will prove that the more your team is able to learn, the more your restaurant will earn. It's Serve, and it's a game changer. Ready to serve? Get started at servenow.com.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast, and with us today, Chef Brandon Boudet, and co-founder of restaurants Little Dom's and Little Dom's Seafood in Los Angeles and Carpenteria, California. Welcome to the show, Brandon. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to have you here. You know, we want to feature more chefs because it's such a heart of the business. Food, of course, is the universal language, and we have so many inspirations, and you obviously have so much passion for food. So we're going to take all that into consideration, but let's start with how you got your start in this business. And I understand it started at a young age. So tell us about that experience, and then tell us, your restaurant career and how you came to co-found these restaurants.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, a big French and Italian family. So food was a really big, important part of our lives. And it became apparent at an early age that I was really into cooking. It all started off with a Valentine's Day cookbook that the teacher was creating was second grade. And everyone's recipes were pretty straightforward, didn't make much sense, but mine was very, very accurate. To this day, the recipe holds up by far. And then from then on, like, I just was always experimenting with food, like throughout my teenage years and such. Wind up going to culinary school in San Francisco. Got my first big break opening up the Italian restaurant inside the Hard Rock Hotel at the, how old was I? 21 at the time. Right. I was the chef of the Italian restaurant. So I basically just, that whole phrase, act like you've been there. I basically lived by that one for, 10 years.
What culinary school were you in San Francisco?
The CCA, California Culinary Academy, downtown San Francisco, Polk and Eddy.
Nice. I'm just getting that down. Okay, very cool. And then Hard Rock Hotel. So let's talk about your New Orleans roots, because you mentioned your French Italian descent and obviously Louisiana cooking. There's a Cajun theme, there's a Creole thing, and all that is French influence, but then you're bringing Italian influences to those influences, and then it all somehow combines. Is that correct?
Yes, definitely so.
All right.
A big thing that always came up that I learned at a pretty young age in the restaurant business was to define, the restaurant needs to be defined. You go to a place because it has this type of food. So you definitely need to have a strong definition of what the restaurant is, I think, for it to be successful. And so that's where the Italian part came in. And I'd had experience in past cooking it with my family and such. So it kind of made sense.
Now, along the way, you've also you've garnered some accolades with obviously the Food Network, and you've been on the show Chopped and Knife Fight. Tell us how those things came to be. How do you get recognized to be a competitor on a show like Chopped, and how do you get discovered for your talents and, have Food Network cover you all that? Tell us about that.
I think it starts by just kind of getting your name out there and just getting some recognition through the restaurants and showing that, you're a solid chef in the business.
Let's talk about the history. Now, Little Dom's, I really like your website. Let's go there first, because I looked at your websites, and as my audience knows, I really believe that the importance of a website is to demonstrate, to show your customers, even if they've never been in the door before, what the experience is like. You've got beautiful photos of the food. It obviously has been professionally done. I see the exterior building. It's called Little Dom's, in Little Italy, and it could be in Little Italy in New York. It could be in Milan or Naples or any of these places. Literally, you've made the building, the ambiance, the vibe, give it that Italian flair. I think that's tremendous. So accolades for that, for sure.
Thanks. Yeah, no, we definitely put a lot of thought and time into all of those little aspects of the ambiance, the environment. My wife's an interior designer. It's every restaurant we walk into, it's lighting, the music. People don't quite realize, you don't realize the environment when you're in it. But then once you walk away from it, it starts to creep back up into your memory, and you're like, wait, why did I like that place so much? And to the untrained eye, you don't quite notice those little things, like the details on the menu, the paper that it's printed on, the volume of the music, are the bathrooms clean? All of those little things play a really important part. And people want to think it's all about the food, but honestly, coming from a chef, it's hard to say this, but the food is not one of the most important things. It's up there, yes, but service, I'll say time and time again, is more important than the food itself. Because if you walk into that place and they know your name and you get taken care of, the food can be good, but if the service and everything else around it is amazing, then that food is actually considered to be great most of the time. So not to take anything away from providing great food, but people don't quite understand the level of service and all of that other stuff that goes into it that really makes a restaurant successful.
Yeah, I've got sort of a mantra. They're not just here for the food, and they may think that they're going out to dinner because they didn't feel like cooking or it's a special occasion, but they're really there for an experience. I think you made that clear, and I'm glad you brought it up because, again, I think that there's always going to be the element of human error. If you're putting out hundreds of meals a day, not everything is going to be perfect. And obviously, the staff have to be trained to put their best foot forward and to be empowered to handle something in the correct way. But if the service, like you said, is extraordinary, people are going to forgive a little glitch here and there as long as you make it right for them, and they're going to give you another chance. I've always believed that. So I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the pandemic. What happened to you when the pandemic hit?
I mean, we closed the restaurant. We opened a new restaurant. We pivoted in another restaurant. So we had a busy time. We had a restaurant called the 101 Coffee Shop for it was going to be 20 years this December, and variable factors led to the closing of it. The pandemic being one, but we knew that our lease was coming up and it wasn't going to be in our favor or made quite sense to renew the lease at this time. So we knew that the end was probably coming to an end. So we closed the 101 Coffee Shop, an iconic diner that we had for 20 years in Los Angeles, very well known. And then we had to Little Dom's, we had to basically pivot the whole operation into to-go and a little market inside of our deli and such, which wind up being very successful. And still to this day, we do a crazy bang up job on to-go business.
No,
then
go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Keep going.
And then we had been planning to open up Little Dom's Seafood March 17th, 2020.
Yeah.
We were like slated to open it up and something happened. And so it made it not available to do. So we pushed back a little bit. Then we started to like figure out, okay, let's go for it. You know, we have to do it sooner or later. So we opened Little Dom's Seafood in Carpenteria on August in middle of July of 2020.
Not answering your phone is one of the quickest ways for your restaurant to lose a potential customer. But between serving in-person customers and dealing with the kitchen, it's hard for staff to prioritize incoming calls. That's why your restaurant needs Pop Menu Answering. Simple questions that keep your phone line tied up can be handled without pulling a staff person from your in-person hospitality. Reclaim the power of your phone. Pop Menu Answering is powered by artificial intelligence to answer the simple questions most people call in with, like, do you have outdoor seating, or what are your hours? Within the Pop Menu platform, you can customize answers for your restaurant and choose the voice your guests hear, plus create customized greetings. Pop Menu Answering picks up your phone 24/7, 365 days a year, turning every phone call into an opportunity. Plus, Pop Menu's full collection of tools helps optimize your restaurant's website and menu, streamlines your ordering experience, and assists in retargeting to enable you to build long-lasting relationships with your guests. Get help answering your restaurant's calls now with Pop Menu Answering. And for a limited time, my listeners can get $100 off their first month plus an unchanging monthly rate at popmenu.com/rockstars. Go now to get $100 off your first month at popmenu.com/rockstars. Very interesting. You know, our backgrounds are somewhat similar. I had 5 restaurants that I opened from scratch and that sort of thing. I actually purchased one that I didn't start from scratch, but I started 4 from scratch and operated them for about 20 years. And then we decided to sell everything in 2014. And then crazily, I got the brilliant idea that I wanted to buy another restaurant just before the pandemic hit. And it was an iconic little breakfast diner cafe kind of place. And our pivot became a market. And when we shut the place down and reopened it, we had to rip out all the seats and the booths. And we turned it into similar to what you're doing. You know, we were offering chicken pot pies to go and beer and wine to go. And we still did hot foods off the line, of course, but all online ordering and all those pivots. So very similarly. How did you make the move? Now, I understood, did Little Dom start in West Hollywood and then it moved to Los Feliz and then you opened a seafood place up the coast? Tell us about all that.
Yeah, so Dominic's is the original restaurant that we had. Dominic's had been around since 1948. There was a guy named Dominic Mozzi who had a restaurant for many, many years. Then in the late 80s, it went through a couple reincarnations. And then in the early 2000s is when we took over Dominic's, which was like a rat pack hangout and such.
Yeah.
And so that's where we got the original idea to do the whole sort of old school, updated Italian-American sort of themed food. That's directly where Dominic's came from. And that's what we like based off of Little Dom's and everything, is all of that came from Dominic's. And so originally we had Dominic's for 14 years, starting off in 2003, closed it down in 2018 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do the math off in my head too quick.
Sure.
But in the beginning, once we got that up and running, Dominic's, we thought about doing a Little Dom's and having it be like a storefront sort of pizza place. And so one day I was doing some food at a wine tasting at a friend's place at Silver Lake Wine in Silver Lake in Los Angeles. And he like standing next to me as we're like serving food and we're shooting the shit. And he was like, hey, our friends have this restaurant that they were trying to get, but they can't come up with the money. You should go check it out. And so after I finished that wine tasting, hopped in the car, called my business partner. I was like, hey, La Belle Epoque on Hillhurst in Los Feliz is up for sale. And so sure enough, he went there the next day, started chatting up with the owners who also ran the restaurant and bakery. And within about 3 or 4 months, we were able to obtain it. And then a year later, we opened it up. And that was Little Dom's. And it's been, a neighborhood institution ever since.
And then Little Dom's Seafood is most recent, right? In the past year and a half or so?
Yes. So Little Dom's Seafood, I live part-time with my wife in Los Angeles and Ojai, California, which is about 40-minute drive to Carpenteria, California. My business partner lives full-time in Carpenteria, California now. It's a smaller beach town right before you get to Montecito and Santa Barbara. It's like a 10-minute drive to Santa Barbara and Montecito. Mm-hmm. 2 blocks from the beach. The space came available. My business partner was like, hey, we can't pass this up. I think we should do a Little Dom's. And I was like, yeah, Little Dom's Seafood makes the most sense because we're surrounded by we have Santa Barbara Harbor, which is bringing in tons of great local fish. And we have Ventura Harbor, both within 15-minute drives of the restaurant. And so it was like Little Dom's Seafood was a no-brainer to us. 2 blocks from the beach in this cute little beach town in Southern California, it made the most sense.
That does for sure. What's the division of responsibility? And obviously you oversee the kitchens of all 3 places, that sort of thing. And your partner handles the business side? Yeah.
I'm the sort of the creative one dealing with the menus, the kitchen. I'll dabble in talking with certain people about our bar and wine program and such.
Mm-hmm. How do you maintain consistency? Do you both spend time in all the places and kind of move back and forth, that sort of thing? Like you've got good management in place? How does that work?
I think you kind of, I'm sure, are familiar with it too. It's like you kind of treat them like children, the restaurants. It's like, so Little Dom's Seafood, it's a year and a half old. So it's the baby. So which one needs more attention? The 12-year-old or the 2-year-old? So obviously the 2-year-old has the one with the most issues. So obviously we're spending more time in Carpenteria. Little Dom's in LA does well. Like we definitely stop in from time to time, and I spend time there also. But the majority of our time is spent at the younger restaurant.
Gotcha. Have you had labor issues at the restaurants right now? How would you describe that, and how have you dealt with it?
Yes, it's been difficult. The funny part is it's been more difficult, actually, I think, almost in the front of the house, where it used to never be a problem finding, a server that would make, they were always making really good, steady money. And now it's harder to find that. I think, back of the house, it's always had its challenges, trying to employ the lower positions like dishwashers and porters and stuff like that, it's always been a little difficult because it's definitely a transient position that people tend to like want to move up, or it's a part-time job for these people. So it's always been kind of hard to maintain those positions.
I see. Let's talk about your leadership style. And not to demean chefs in any way, I started out young in this business. I bartended in college and I worked at a variety of restaurants. And then I opened my own restaurants, and either working or employing, I had a gamut of chefs. I had classically trained chefs. I had people that went to culinary school. I had people that apprenticed. I had people that threw pots and pans and yelled at the servers. I had people that were very strong leaders as well as strong culinarians. Where do you fit in, and what do you think is important when you're a chef and leading an organization that you're building?
I mean, like I said, my leadership has changed through the years. It's like, I've done this. I've been in charge since I was 21 years old. So obviously how I led then and how I lead now is obviously going to be different. I'm not on the line cooking every night, whatever. It's more of a, I come in and observe and talk to my leaders in each kitchen. So it's like, there's not like, it's changed. It's like, yes, I would be more vocal or whatever. I still believe that like when you're on the line and you're expediting whatever, it's like, you have to treat it like you're the coach, and like your expediter is your quarterback, and all your line cooks are part of the team, and you just like got to get them like focused, like get them in the mood to go. It's like, and understand like just having your expediter and your cooks and your lead line cooks understanding like the nuances of service and all of that is like one of the toughest things. Like people don't put much emphasis on, I think, a lot of that. And it's super important.
Restaurant owners and managers, I call this the business of 1,000 details. And you've got more important things to worry about than calculating and paying your monthly sales tax on time. Well, that's where Davo comes in. Davo puts sales tax on autopilot for restaurants. Davo uses sales tax data from your point of sale system to set aside the exact amount of sales tax you collect every single day, and then files it and pays it when it's due, on time for your restaurant every month. Davo takes just 5 minutes to set up, and once it's up and running, you never have to worry about paying sales tax again. Davo costs $49.99 per POS connection per month, and your restaurant can try Davo for the first 30 days free. Davo was created by a successful restaurant chef and owner who knows what's important for your operation. Time is money, and you've got more important things to focus on, like pleasing your guests. You can't put a price on peace of mind. Why not try Davo for the first 30 days at DavoSalesTax.com? Sounds like you've got the big picture at 30,000 feet. Do you miss being really hands-on and cooking, or you still get a chance to do it on occasion?
Yes, I do. It's like, I used to always find great joy in being in a quiet kitchen, like before service or in between service, and like chopping an onion and cooking some stuff and like creating specials with the sous chefs. That's kind of like my like enjoyable part of the day, is when I can get in and do that kind of thing and help create. And it's also nowadays, it's really rewarding to be able to like just talk it out with one of the chefs and say, hey, let's create this and let's do this. And when they kind of are understanding, like they understand at this point, they understand your palate and your taste and your like how you like to plate things and stuff. It's really rewarding to be able to like talk it out and then like see it evolve. And you had a hand in it, but you didn't do it all by yourself. It was like a team effort. That's like probably the most rewarding thing, being able to do something like that.
For sure. Probably one of the biggest shifts is pre-pandemic. Most restaurants really look for experienced people, especially in the back of house, and anyone working the line had to have a certain skill set, that sort of thing. And now with the challenge, it's like they'll hire anyone and try to train them. Have you found that to be true? And if so, what skill sets are you looking for, and how do you train people? Or do you have trainers that are training your people? Do you get involved in that?
Yeah, no, I definitely get involved with it. Like I said, like, my one thing that I do right now presently at Little Dom Seafood is I'll come in on the busier nights and help expedite. And like, you're right next to the seafood bar. And so you got a good view of like everything, what's going on. So it's like, yeah, like I definitely play a part in some of the training, but not all of it. Most of the cooks are trained by other cooks and by the sous chef.
Mm-hmm. Let's keep on the training topic for a moment. And I don't know how involved you get with front of the house, or if you have a dining room leader, a general manager, that sort of thing. But when I ran restaurants, my competitive advantage, and you mentioned this earlier, the service really outshines everything. If you can deliver amazing, extraordinary service, then that is such a competitive advantage. But service is so much more than hospitality. It's also salesmanship. And especially now during the pandemic, it's like every sale is absolutely important to maximize, of course, maximizing profit and training your staff so well that they're suggestive selling and that they have product and restaurant knowledge, and that they're building relationships with every single guest to get them to come back and tell their friends and go on online, social media and all that kind of stuff. All those things are critically important. Are you involved, or what are your philosophies in terms of the staff that are interacting with your guests?
Yeah, like we'll have meetings and stuff about that. And we definitely on a weekly basis, we talk to all the managers about that kind of thing. And it's really about providing the front of the house with all the tools necessary when it comes to like menu descriptions. We have a food Bible, we have a wine Bible, and all of these things, they're all sort of, they're expected to know all of these things before they get on the floor. And with the pandemic and trying to find staff, it's like, yes, we've had to be a little bit softer in our desire to have our front of the house staff know all of this stuff like the back of their hand, which we've done in the past. So like that's been, I think, the hardest struggle throughout the pandemic, and like starting to like move in the new direction in this time is just like you still want to expect and to have like that top-notch service, but you also have to be a little bit more forgiving when it comes to these people and their knowledge and such, to where it's like, have we had to take a little bit of a step back, I think, in service? I think just a little bit, and just make sure that they're providing people with just like being super friendly and super nice, and providing with that, and taking a little bit of a backseat, a little back step with the knowledge that we expect them to know. Because there's been so many other things that we've had to like throw at them. It's like, safety protocols and all of this other stuff that they have to deal with. And then it's like getting them to have all this like knowledge down about wine and food has become a little bit more difficult, because you're working with a lot of people that are not, it's normally their first time in the business,
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about menus, because so many restaurants have had to pare down their menus, simplify their menus, recost out their menus, because obviously prices are rising, and some of the highest prices we've ever paid for certain items, as well as, the labor crisis has led us or forced us to pay higher wages, and all these things are shrinking restaurant margins, which are already pretty, slim to begin with. How are you dealing with all that? Have you had to pare down your menus? Is it essentially the same? Have you had to raise prices? Let's talk about that topic in general.
Yeah, so we've had to, in the beginning of the pandemic, we pared down the menu drastically. We like took a lot of stuff off, like most of our fish and all of that stuff like came off the menu at Little Dom's, and just had like one choice of fish and a chicken, and like it was very pared down menu, really devoted to go business. And then through this last year and a half, it's gradually come back, and we're pretty much back to, I would say, 90% of what we normally did in, say, 2019. Mm-hmm. So it's been good. And have we raised the prices a little bit here and there, but it hasn't been much. The thing that's really helped us out a lot, I think, especially with Little Dom's in LA, is just the sheer volume that we've been doing with to-go business on top of our regular business has made Little Dom's like even stronger than it was in 2019.
Yeah, so I was really impressed with that. I noticed
definitely helped our food cost out.
Yeah, for sure. Like you're doing the grocery and retail thing. And I know you're doing meats and cheeses by the pound, and you're selling sauces and meatballs and all that kind of stuff. Pizza kits, right? And gelato sundae kits, and all these things are innovative ideas that obviously capture the public's imagination, but it's moving stuff out the door to augment everything you're doing in-house, which is tremendous. So that's
right. And
would you
like,
would you have done
little,
that anyway if the pandemic didn't hit? Did you have a retail program in place and you just expanded it?
To a degree, we had a retail. We had a little bit of retail business in place. But it was funny. Like we started all that with the market and everything, and it was really strong in the beginning. And because people were, everyone's into baking bread and making them pizza at home. And once people got a little tired of spending so much time at home, it started to come around where I was like, our to-go business just stayed really steady and got crazy busy throughout the whole pandemic. And the longer the pandemic went on, our to-go business, it's great because our food travels so well. So like all of that food, people, once they got tired of baking bread and making their own pizzas at home, they're like, I just want the food delivered to me and I can put it on a plate and eat it. That became our like mainstay, was the solid just to-go business. The sort of like market and all of that was good in the beginning, but people, once you were able to go to the grocery store again, easier, it was, it became, a little bit less of our business.
Everyone knows that Smithfield Culinary has a full line of great ready-to-cook to ready-to-eat products from Smithfield and Margarita. But what else is cooking? Tap into the latest culinary trends and get inspired with new recipes created by real working chefs from across the country. Bring more to the table with flavors and new menu ideas your guests will savor. Visit smithfieldculinary.com or follow @smithfieldculinary on social media. How has third-party delivery impacted your business? It's obviously increased sales. It's been a controversial topic, as you know, because there's still a lot of people that are grumbling about the high fees and all that kind of stuff, and how it already minimizes already low margins and that sort of thing. How do you deal with that?
We are fortunate to be one of the bigger players in the to-go business. So businesses like that tend to give us a better rate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, if you're, a place that doesn't do quite as much to-go business, then you're not going to get that better rate. And fortunately for us, we have been with a third-party delivery business since the pandemic began, and way before that, we were with them. And since our business has like exponentially grown since then, we've stayed with them, and they've given us, each year we've gotten a little bit better rate. So it's, we're one of the few, I think, that have benefited from all of this.
That's another great example for our audience, those that are growing their businesses. I learned a long time ago, you don't ask, you don't get. You never know what is negotiable, and you should always try to negotiate a better deal, whether that's credit card processing fees or third-party delivery or anything. It's like, you don't ask, you don't get. So word to the wise there. Let's talk about marketing a little bit. You're doing Monday night 3-course dinners. Was that traditionally a slower night, and now you're building Monday nights into something?
Yep. That started back at Dominic's back in the summer of 2004. We started doing Monday night suppers because notoriously we did Sunday night suppers.
Okay. Yep.
At Dominic's. And then once Little Dom's opened, we did Monday night suppers at Little Dom's. And now we do Tuesday night suppers at Little Dom's Seafood because it's very, it's a sort of a vacation sort of a spot. It's so Little Dom Seafood, the slower days are Tuesday and Wednesday, tend to be up there, where Monday people tend to stay through the weekend and leave on Monday or leave on Tuesday morning. So our slower days are Tuesday and Wednesday up there. So it made sense to do Tuesday night supper up there. But it all started back at Dominic's Sunday night supper, because Sunday night in Los Angeles was the slower dining night. and it was successful right off the start.
Now, Thanksgiving just recently passed, but you have another tradition there, deep fried turkey feast. Tell us how that came to be and how that's working out.
Yeah, we had been closed on Thanksgiving. And for, I think the first year after Little Dom's being open, it was like a year or two after that, we decided we're like, hey, let's do something to like give back to the community. And we decided, I was like, okay, let's deep fry turkeys. And the first year we didn't realize what we're getting into. And we're like, oh yeah, we'll do like 50 or so. And now we've got it down. We got the pots all ready to go, and we sell sides and everything. And we do it like clockwork. But it's Thanksgiving to go at Little Dom's deep fried turkeys is a tradition that's been going strong ever since. And we just started it at Little Dom's Seafood this year for the first time.
That's what you got to do, right? You got to get creative, you got to get resourceful and figure out new ways on slower days of bringing in new business. So
right. And it's also just to keep your name out there, keep the restaurant's name out there, keep it relevant. Like all those little things, they just add up. Like, doing your Little Dom's Thanksgiving, and we've done like Mardi Gras stuff from time to time, and we'll do like some Christmas stuff and Feast of the Seven Fishes from time to time, just to kind of get your name out there, just keep it relevant. You always got to like be coming up with those little things that just, you don't realize they help right away, but they do.
What's your social media strategy? Do you have a dedicated person taking care of social media and also answering online reviews and that sort of thing?
Yes, we have a PR firm, and we also have a person that takes care of social media. Mm-hmm. And like I said, just like keeping ourselves like relevant when it comes to social media and PR. It's like we've had the same PR firm for 15 years, since 2005 or something. We've used them ever since, and it's just keeping ourselves relevant. All those little publications, the bigger ones come from time to time, but like I think the thing that really drives it is the smaller stuff, and just simple things like getting on the Food Network, like for certain little things, like make a pretty significant impact when it does happen.
Have you traveled to Italy for influences and to get new ideas at all? Does that happen?
Yes. I was trying to go back to Italy and during the pandemic, but that got canceled. Right. Yes, we go. I've been to Rome a few times, and Venice and Milan. And one of the reason why we do very super paper thin pizza at Little Dom's was because my business partner was at a wedding in Lake Como, and he saw these pizzas being done by putting the pizza dough through a sheeter and creating this like long surfboard type pizza. And he was like, hey, we got to go check this out. So he and myself and his mother went to Lake Como specifically just to sit in a place and eat pizza for a few nights just to see it. And lo and behold, a few years later, we opened up Little Dom's and we created our pizza, which is like super thin, not as long as the ones that we saw in Lake Como, but it was very similar to that.
Yeah, I love those influences. So many years ago, decades ago, I was in graduate school and I did an internship in Milan, Italy, and I lived there for the summer. And that whole pizza culture in Italy just totally swept me up. And I never thought I'd be in the pizza business, but I started my first restaurant, which was a wood-fired pizzeria. And then we actually went back after we had opened it. 6 months later, we went back to Naples and we discovered like the oldest pizzeria on the planet where pizza as we know it was actually created so many generations ago. And the original descendants of that founding family still worked that pizzeria. And I had very, very basic Italian skills back then. I've lost most of it now, but it's like I was able to communicate to them that we had just opened this wood-fired pizza place in the state of Maine. And, we just wanted to check this place out. They invited us behind the counter and we spent the afternoon making pizza in the oldest pizzeria on the planet. And I thought that was a great marketing hook. And we printed that on our menus and all the pizza boxes and all that kind of stuff. And we actually learned some secrets to pizza making from these people, and just such a proud heritage. People that work in the pizza industry in Italy are kind of revered like CEOs of Fortune 500 companies are here in America. It's crazy.
And a good little business tip about our pizza is that we're sitting there eating it when we're in Lake Como, and you're like, you ate this, it looks gigantic. And even our pizzas that are at Little Dom's, they're like the size of like put in front of your chest, and it's like
Right.
it covers your chest. It covers up a big 8.5 by 12 board that it sits on.
Mm-hmm.
And you think that it's a lot of food, but you can actually eat one of those and have something else. The trick is it's so paper thin that we actually only use a 5-ounce dough to make this pizza. When traditionally, when you get an individual pizza for yourself or whatever that, looks like, the size of your face, it's usually like an 8-ounce to like 10-ounce dough that they're using. So it's like you're eating much less food, but you're deceiving the eye, and it helps with our ticket average.
Absolutely. Totally. And, there's misconceptions. Like, people are used to American style pizza. And when we started this place so long ago, we only had one size. You can't get a large loaded pizza at our place. You could only get a 12-inch per, and because that's the way it is in Italy. And the only difference is we cut the pizzas here, whereas in Italy, they give you a knife and a fork, but they don't cut the pie, and it's this round 12-inch pizza. So we surprised a bunch of people in the beginning when we started offering these one size only pizzas, and, people eventually got it. It became very successful, but it's such a culture.
Yeah. Speaking of like loaded pizzas, we were on the show, we were on the pizza episode of the Best Thing I Ever Ate. And we were on there for our breakfast pizza, which is 3 beautiful slices of speck. And as the pizza is going into the oven with fresh mozzarella, a little simple tomato sauce, an egg is cracked into it and created like a little well and slid into the wood burning oven to cook this egg.
Yeah.
And as it comes out, you have this like nice, like sunny side up eggs, and it's perfect. It comes out. And when it was on the Best Thing I Ever Ate, the host that was doing our segment was like, "Hey, little tip, I like 2 eggs on this pizza." And ever since that thing would run, people would come in, and it'd be noticeable because the episode would air, and then like the next day, or if it was a weekend or whatever, the next day you would see the like uptick in the sale of that breakfast pizza. And then it's like you would also notice that everyone had 2 eggs on their pizza. Then we had people coming in saying, "Hey, can I get 3 eggs on my pizza?" And we're like, "No, sorry, it's too difficult to try and get that right." And so we have to put a 2-egg lemon on our pizza.
But that's a hook also. I think that's tremendous. You don't see that everywhere every day. So I'm a huge believer in setting yourself apart from the competition, doing really unique, creative things with the food. And, I used to have this phrase called wow factor. I wanted everything in the restaurant to have what I call wow factor. And it all started with the food. I wanted every plate that was put before a guest, that the camera phones came out and they wanted to take photos of it before they cut into it, that sort of thing. But then we're like, well, the ambiance has to have wow factor, and the service has to have wow factor, and everyone has to walk out the door saying, wow, we got to tell everybody about this. And that was one of the, secrets of our success as well. And it sounds like you're doing a lot of that. Why don't you, if you could, please, and whatever comes to mind first. Obviously, the pandemic has devastated this industry. Well over 100,000 restaurants have closed. Previously thriving businesses are now no longer. And those people that are still operating restaurants, whether they're chef owners or independent owners, whatever they are, small chains of restaurants, if they're still standing, they're beaten up pretty bad. Okay. First, it's a pandemic. Now it's a labor crisis. And it's like our goal with the podcast is just to help them rediscover that passion of why they got into the business in the first place. And you're in a really good position to give them some advice that just keeps them going. So they dig deep, get creative, get resourceful. What would you say to our audience about you're still standing? Awesome. What's the future look like, and why should you keep going?
I think, like I talked about before, just like defining yourself, just being very like getting back to what you originally started out doing. I think you can be successful by just like focusing in on what your restaurant is and what it's about, and like really like driving that home and sticking to your guns with that, and understanding your neighborhood, or your just like your local clientele, figuring out what they are and what they want. Like that's where I see the biggest failure coming in, is these people that want to open up this, like they have these grandiose ideas of opening up a restaurant and like making it. Yeah. Cause it's like, I like to cook like this type of food, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, yeah. And they don't take into consideration where it's located, who their clientele is, what their clientele wants. And I think that's like, I think one of the big things is just kind of listen to your customer. I think we've had to do that through the pandemic because like people would come in and it's like, hey, can we get this? And can we get that? And like, we brought lots of other things in. And I think the big thing is just like, focus on what you want to be, but also don't forget to listen to your customer and what they want.
For sure. I mean, I've always believed this is the business of 1,000 details, and the word business is most important. People that are starting restaurants because they think it's glamorous or romantic or whatever, they think they can don't realize, as you know, that it is a business and there's so many aspects of running a business, not just putting out great food every day. So thanks for bringing that home. That's so important. Well, that was the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. Brandon, thank you so much for being with us. And
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You're a great guest. And to our audience, please stay well and just dig deep and just keep going. This is all about the future. It's only getting better and the future's bright. Obviously, restaurant customers are coming back in droves right now. And if you can just get through this, it's going to continue to boom in the future. So stay at it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon, for being a great guest on the podcast. You and chefs around the globe are the heart of the house, and we appreciate all that you do. Let me shift gears for a moment. If you head on over to restaurantrockstars.com, I'm giving away for free 3 ways you're killing your restaurant profits. Did I get your attention for a moment? That's right. I said profit. It's all about the bottom line and profit. And this is immediately actionable ideas that will help you be more profitable in your restaurant operation. It's actually a twofold giveaway. I'm also giving away a free restaurant assessment. Whether you're starting your first restaurant for the very first time or you're a veteran, you've been in business a while, I'm giving away 40 to 50 different questions, thought-provoking questions that'll help you evaluate your entire operation from a profit standpoint and see if you're hitting the mark. Hitting all counts. Head on over to restaurantrockstars.com. Thanks also to the sponsors of this week's episode, Smithfield Culinary, Pop Menu, Davo, and Serve, which stands for Study Restaurant Variety. It's the incredible restaurant staff training app. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. For lots of great resources, head over to restaurantrockstars.com. See you next time.